Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello and welcome friends. In this lecture today we are going to focus on the left parties in India, and this is the 11th lecture in this course, Political Parties and Party System in India. So in this lecture we are going to particularly discuss the ideology, the history and the formation of two left parties, Communist Party of India and the Communist Party of India Marxist. In other words, CPI and the CPIM. In this lecture we are going to focus particularly on the role, ideology and the formation of these two left parties, and the challenges and the future prospect of these parties and their contribution in Indian politics. When we talk about left wing politics, one of the confusion or one of the problem arises as to how to distinguish a left parties from a right parties. What are the basis on which we can categorize a party as a left party or a party which is the right party, and what does it mean to have left parties in a country or in a polity. So if you recall first few lectures in this course where we have discussed that how in Indian party system there is a representation of all kinds of ideology starting from extreme left to the extreme right. In this lecture particularly we are going to discuss what are the left parties in Indian politics, how they have contributed in protecting those who are marginalized, those who are weaker, or in other words how they strive to create a more egalitarian or socially just society in India. So broadly speaking, left wing politics is associated with those parties which is engaged in the politics of social equality and egalitarianism. So one of the ways in which you can think of or categorize a party is their approach towards social equality and social egalitarianism. Left wing parties, be it the communist or the socialist or many left of the center parties, will focus more on social equality and social egalitarianism. They also advocate popular and state control of major industries and national resources, and that is the another distinguishing criteria or the criteria on which you can differentiate a left parties from the right parties. So they advocate popular or the state control of industries and national resources. Within the left parties there are many layers, as we discussed that from the communist, even among the communists, those who participate in the election or want to bring about radical transformation within the parliamentary form of democracy, then the Communist Party which want to launch movement or protest outside the parliamentary framework to overthrow the bourgeoisie Indian states. So from this extreme communist or the leftist party who do not want to participate in parliamentary election, to those communist party which want to participate, and through the participation in the parliamentary democracy they want to bring about radical transformation, to the socialist or many left of the center parties, there are many layers within these left parties. In many countries, socialism is regarded as the standard leftist ideology, whereas communism is seen as radical leftist ideology. So, in the many countries, in the advanced countries or also in developing or less developed countries, the standard ideology or the standard leftist ideology is regarded as the socialism or the socialist parties, whereas communism, which is far leftist ideology, is also present, but regarded as a radical political parties or radical ideology. About the difference between communism and the socialism, we have discussed in the previous lecture about the Janata Party and their roots in the philosophy of socialism. So, particularly Ram Manohar Lohia, when he talked about Indian brand of socialism, that was avoiding the extreme of both capitalism and the communism to chart out a way that is appropriate or most suitable for Indian condition to bring about a more egalitarian, participative, democratic country. So, the socialism within the left is regarded as the standard leftist ideology, whereas communism talks about the radical transformation or revolution to overthrow the existing state of economy or polity or the hierarchy that exists in society, to bring about a society where there is no hierarchy, no exploitation of men by the men, and so on. So, in general terms, in many countries you find socialism being a standard leftist ideology, hence more acceptable, and in also in India we have seen how in 1960s, 70s, 80s and 90s socialism or the party guided by socialism dominated the political discourse in the country than the radical left parties represented by many communist parties. However, in the France, where the term this left and right first came, the left are seen as parties of movement. That means those parties which tries to bring social revolution or political revolution. The objective of these parties are to join politics to bring about radical transformation, whereas political right is seen as parties of the order, those which are conservative or more keen to protect the existing structure of power or the status quo. So, in French, when this term parties of right and left was deployed, parties of left was seen as the parties of the movement, which want to bring about radical social, political and economic transformations or revolution in the society, whereas the political right was seen as parties which fight for maintaining the order or maintaining the status quo, or seen largely as the conservative parties. However, over the years there have been substantial revision in the understanding of what is left and what is right. In India, broadly speaking, Communist Party of India CPI, Communist Party of India Marxist CPIM, and Communist Party of India Marxist and Leninist CPIML represent the left front, or what we call Vam Dal in Indian politics. However, besides these parties, there are other left wing parties such as Revolutionary Socialist Party RSP, All India Forward Bloc, AIFB, Revolutionary Communist Party of India, RCPI, Democratic Socialist Party, and many others. However, in this lecture, we shall focus particularly on CPI and CPIM. Both of them are organized or recognized as the national parties in India by the Election Commission. However, CPI among the two has a more broader or national presence across the states in India, whereas CPIM support base is more concentrated in West Bengal, Kerala, and Tripura. So, within these two parties, CPI and CPIM, where both of them are recognized as the national parties, CPI support base is more scattered across the states, whereas CPIM is more pragmatic or more concerned in concentrated in West Bengal, Kerala, and Tripura. Within the left parties, there are many differences, which starts from their policies and programs to their scientific and objective reading of suitable condition for the revolutionary politics in India. So, overall objective of the left parties is to bring about the radical transformation in the existing structure of society or the power relation that exist in the society. In order to achieve that, there are various differences that exist within the leftist parties in terms of their policies and programs to achieve that kind of radical social political transformation, and also their readings of the objective conditions which they regard as suitable or not suitable for the revolutionary politics in India. So, in terms of their policies and programs and readings of suitable conditions, within the left parties there exist numerous differences, and there are also differences among them on the method of achieving this revolutionary or transformative politics. So, many of them would like to join parliamentary politics, or through parliamentary democracy would like to bring about true democracy or the people's democracy, whereas many left parties would like to continue their politics outside the parliamentary politics in terms of street politics or extra parliamentary politics to bring about a radical socio-economic transformation. So, in terms of their method to politics also, there are huge difference within and among the left parties. After their initial confusions regarding parliamentary form of democracy, left parties in India began to work for bringing about revolutionary transformations in society and polity through peaceful means. And this is particularly about Communist Party of India, where there was this initial confusion whether one should join parliamentary form of democracy to strive for radical revolutionary politics, or one should try extra parliamentary method. However, Communist Party of India particularly realized that the peaceful parliamentary method is perhaps more appropriate approach to bring about radical transformation than the extra parliamentary politics. So, in other words, they decided to join electoral politics, and in Kerala, first communist government was formed through democratic election, and this is regarded as the first such occurrence anywhere in the world, where the Communist Party through election formed the government without recourse to extra parliamentary revolutionary kind of politics to overthrow the state and capture the power. Here it is through election in a peaceful manner, Communist Party was able to successfully form a government guided by the communist ideology within the parliamentary structure of governance. So, within the left party you have a kind of shift from the confusion of joining the parliamentary politics or extra parliamentary politics to their gradual joining of electoral politics, but there are many parties which remain, and these parties are largely the splinter groups of the Communist Party of India, particularly in 1960s and 70s, like the Maoist or sometimes Marxist and Leninist communist parties. They remain outside the parliamentary form of democracy or electoral politics. However, these two parties, Communist Party of India and the Communist Party of India Marxist, began to take active participation in the electoral politics. Now, we will discuss each of these two parties, their formation, ideology and contribution in Indian politics. So, we will start with the Communist Party of India, which is the oldest communist political party in India. So, CPI, Communist Party of India, is the oldest communist political party in India, and it was formed on December 26, 1925 in Kanpur. Communist Party of India was inspired by the Russian Revolution, and party remains committed to the philosophy of Marxism and Leninism to bring about radical transformations in India. So, the immediate cause for the formation of Communist Party of India was the Russian Revolution, and it regards the philosophy of Marxism and Leninism as the scientific method to bring about radical transformation to prevent exploitation of man by the men in India. And its objective was to achieve national independence and fight for socialism and communism in India. So, this we have seen that how left politics or left ideology not just inspired the communist parties, but also many socialist parties and the Congress, which dominated Indian party system, particularly the first few decades after the independence, was equally guided by the socialism. Even the BJP, which is regarded as the right wing parties in India, is in its constitution regard Gandhian socialism as one of the core objective of the BJP. So, socialism basically means creating a more egalitarian, inclusive society which is not based on discrimination or hierarchy in terms of power or resources of few over the others. So, Communist Party of India also has of fighting for socialism in India, and also they fought for the national independence against the imperial rule of the British. Its founding members were M.N. Roy, Hasrat Mohani, Rafiq Ahmad, S.A. Dange, among many others. So, these first founding members played a very important role in the formation of Communist Party of India. Over the year, other prominent leaders of the Communist parties, Communist Party of India are Indrajit Gupta, Ajay Ghosh, Hirendra Nath Mukherjee, Gurudas Das Gupta, D. Raja, Kanhaiya Kumar, and among many others. So, they have provided the continuous leadership to Communist Party of India, and during the pre-independence era, CPI played an important role in anti-imperialist struggle. It also played an important role in the mobilization of particularly the workers, peasants and students, and spearheaded many strikes, anti-landlord agitations and anti-imperialist boycotts and hartals. So, since the colonial days, Communist Party of India was active in the struggle for creating a more egalitarian society, particularly protecting the interest of those who are exploited or marginal or excluded from the mainstream society. So, they began to mobilize the workers, peasants and students, and spearheaded many strikes, anti-landlord agitations and anti-imperialist boycotts and hartals since the anti-colonial struggle days. Important wing of the party, CPI, is All India Trade Union Congress, which was already formed in 1920. So, in the Indian politics, the voice of the industrial workers or the peasants was something which, or the mobilization of the farmers was deeply influenced by the politics of the Communist Party or the Socialist Party. And as we have seen in the lecture on Janata Party, that how it tries to combine the voice of the Kisan or the farmers along with the voices of quota politics or the other backward castes. So, Communist Party of India, through its wing like All India Trade Union Congress, which was formed much before the formation of CPI, began to mobilize those forces in the rural and also industrial base of the country. Particularly the Kanpur conspiracy case gave CPI the much needed audience in India. If we now look at the ideology of Communist Party of India, CPI's constitution declares it as a party of workers, peasants, toiling people in general, and intelligentsia and others committed to the ideology of communism and socialism. So, the idea of communism and the socialism, which is for the protection of the interest of particularly the workers, peasants and toiling masses, the party claims to represent their interest, and also it is a party of those sections or intelligentsia in the society which are committed to the ideology of socialism and communism. It aspires to create a just socialist society in which equal opportunities for all and guarantee of democratic rights will clear the way for ending all forms of exploitation, including caste, class, gender and exploitation of men by men, a society in which the wealth produced by toiling millions will not be appropriated by a few. The science of Marxism and Leninism is indispensable for charting the path to such a socialist system. So, the objective of Communist Party of India is to create a just socialist society in which the equal opportunity for all and guarantee of democratic rights will clear the way for ending all forms of exploitations, be it on the basis of caste, class or gender, and exploitation in any forms of man by man. It also envisages a society in which wealth that is produced by the toiling millions should not be appropriated by the few. That means concentration of the wealth or the appropriation of the resources is something the Communist Party would like to fight against in its attempt to create a more egalitarian society with equal opportunity for all and no forms of exploitation exist in such society. And it regards the Marxism and Leninism as the indispensable for charting the path to such a new social system. Some of the major demands, if we look at of the Communist Party of India were land to the tiller. So, those who till the land should get the ownership of the land, or the nationalization of foreign imperialist capitalist. So, they want to nationalize the national industries or the system of production. Adult suffrage, the nation's wealth in the nation's hand, 8 hours working day, democratic rights of organization, meeting, demonstration and the strike. So, these are part of the democratic politics, where every organizations and groups should have their right to organize, to demand, to demonstrate and even strike. Social equality for women and social justice for the untouchables. So, these are some of the popular demands or slogans of the Communist Party of India in its attempt to create a society which would be more equal or egalitarian or socially just. However, after the formation of the Congress Socialist Party within the Congress in 1934, there developed a rift between communist and the socialist on the one hand and Congress and the communists on the other. So, in their fight to appropriate the political space, particularly after the formation of Congress Socialist Party in 1934, they developed a rift within the left politics between communist and the socialist on the one hand and Congress and the communist on the other. So, we have seen how Congress Party represented the ideology from across the political spectrums, from the right to the left. Many of its leaders, including Jawaharlal Nehru, was committed to the socialist restructuring of the society, and therefore, it leads to gradual rift or differences within and among the left parties in India. And this rift and differences continued to play out in the post-Indian politics too. So, in the decades of 1950s, 60s and 70s, there was the huge difference between the Communist Party and the Socialist Party on the one hand and the Communist Party and the Congress Party on the another. This rift continued to play. However, there are many unique contributions in Indian politics. In particularly in 1936, during the colonial era, witnessed many new initiatives in Indian politics in which Communist Party of India played an important role, such as formation of All India Kisan Sabha, and the Kisan politics became the dominant issue in anti-colonial struggle and also in the decades of 60s and 70s. All India Students Federation, Progressive Writers Association and IPTA, Indian People's Theatre Association, was formed in 1934. So, these organizations played a very constructive and creative role in the left leaning politics and political discourse in India. It played an important role in the composition or revival of revolutionary songs, poetry, plays, folk arts, craft and culture, and Communist Party of India played a pivotal role in formation of these groups. However, Communist Party of India regarded political independence in 1947 merely as a transfer of power and not a real freedom. So, their reading or understanding of political independence in 1947 was somewhat problematic for other mainstream leaders and parties. CPI also led struggles in Telangana against the oppressive regime of Nizam. Similar struggles was launched in other parts of India too, and in the initial years there were confusion among the party leaderships about the participation in the parliamentary politics. So, first few years after the independence, they launched many extra parliamentary struggles in their quest for revolutionary politics, and there was confusion among the party leadership about joining or not joining the electoral politics. However, it participated in the election, and in 1958 Amritsar convention of the party, it declared the party's motive as parliamentary road to communism. So, they want to fight for communism or the socialist restructuring of power hierarchy and social relations. The method or the approach to achieve that communist or the socialist society is through the parliamentary road, and since then party strive towards secular, democratic and socialist India, and it regards communalism as the biggest threat to India's secular democracy. So, the Communist Party of India, from its initial confusion about joining the electoral politics, gradually turned out to become the great defender of the secular, democratic and the socialist ideology in India, or the Indian nature of Indian state. In order to strengthen the democratic forces, it has aligned with many political parties including Congress and many socialist parties. In 1970s and 77, CPI aligned with the Congress, and in Kerala they together formed the government with Achyut Menon as the chief minister from CPI. However, after 1980s, it reoriented towards CPIM, the splinter groups from the Communist Party of India, and at present together they are in power in Kerala. Communist Party of India was part of Janata Dal led United Front government, and it also extended outside support to the Congress led UPA in 2004. Its representation in the Lok Sabha in the first 5 general elections since 1952 have been 16, 27, 29, 23 and 23 seats. So, it has representation in the Indian Parliament. However, since 1971 its tally in the Lok Sabha has never reached 20, and its vote share never crossed 10%. So, Communist Party of India representation in the current Lok Sabha is 2 in the Lok Sabha and 1 in the Rajya Sabha. In the Kerala Assembly it has 19 members and 1 legislative assembly members in the West Bengal. So, this clearly states that Communist Party of India never really acquire the status of a viable alternative to the politics of Congress or now increasingly of the BJP. Nonetheless, it has strong influence in shaping the policies and programs of the many governments, particularly the left front governments in West Bengal, Tripura and Kerala, and also Janata Dal led government at the center, and within the UPA, one particularly, and also Congress party, they had great influence in terms of the policies and programs of these parties. Such electoral performance of the left parties, particularly in previous 2 general election, establishes their abysmal state of affairs as far as electoral politics is concerned. Considering this performance, Election Commission of India has already sent a letter to the Communist Party of India asking for reasons why its status as a national party should not be revoked, and there are chances that if similar performance is repeated in the next election, CPI may lose its status as a national party. Although it is worth remembering this, CPI remains the only national party in India which fought all general elections using same electoral symbol, and this is also a party which remains consistent in terms of its ideology of Marxism and Leninism. Now, if you look at Communist Party of India, Marxist CPIM is one of the most prominent party among the left parties in India. It is also recognized like CPI by the Election Commission of India as a national party, but it is more concentrated in the states of Kerala, West Bengal and Tripura, and at present it is leading the left front government in Kerala. It was also in power in West Bengal continuously from 1977 to May 2011, when All India Trinamool Congress formed the government in West Bengal. So, for close to 3 decades it was continuously in power in West Bengal, and in Tripura under the leadership of Manik Sarkar it was in the power for about 20 years. CPIM was formed in 1964 after the split in Communist Party of India, and this split was a result of the growing differences between the Chinese and the Russian Communist parties at the international level, and also the pro-Congress what the leaders of CPIM regards the revisionist and the sectarian politics of Communist Party of India. So, the formation of CPIM in 1964 was the result of the split within the Communist Party of India. This was the result of the growing differences between the Russian and the Chinese Communist Party at the international level, and also domestically the pro-Congress revisionist and the sectarian politics of Communist Party. Its founding leaders were P. Sundaraiah, EMS Nambudri Pad, Harkishan Singh Surjit and Jyoti Basu. They played crucial role in the formation of Communist Party of India, Marxist. If you look at its ideology, CPIM regards itself as the revolutionary vanguard of the working class of India. So, it regards itself as a party which protects the interests of the working class in India. Its aim is socialism and communism through the establishment of dictatorship of proletariat. So, ultimate objective of CPIM is socialism and communism by establishing the dictatorship of proletariat, basically the workers or the traders. In all its activities, the party is guided by the philosophy and principle of Marxism and Leninism, which shows to the toiling masses the correct way to the ending of exploitation of men by men and their complete emancipation. The party keeps high the banner of proletariat internationalism. So, in terms of ideology, Communist Party of India is also guided by the philosophy and principles of Marxism and Leninism, and strive to fight exploitation in every form, and objective is to establish socialism and communism by the establishment of dictatorship of proletariat. It believes in the ideology of scientific and revolutionary tenets of Marxism and Leninism and its appropriate application in Indian condition. So, it intends to bring about a people's democratic revolution to end the exploitation by imperialists, bourgeoisie and landlords. It is committed to build a left and democratic front as an alternative to existing oppressive exploitative power structure in Indian society and polity, And in that sense, Communist Party of India, Marxist, remain more pragmatic in its politics, in its attempt to consolidate its support base in few states rather than having scattered presence all across the India, like Communist Party of India. So, that has led to the consolidation of communist support, particularly in the states of West Bengal, Kerala and Tripura, where now they are also facing many challenges from the opposition party, particularly All India Trinamool Congress, Congress Party in Kerala, BJP in BJP and All India Trinamool Congress in West Bengal, and now BJP in Tripura as well. So, they are facing the challenges from the opposition party, but CPIM managed to consolidate its support base in these three states rather than having scattered presence in different states in India, like Communist Party of India, and therefore, it in terms of its policies and politics, it is perhaps more pragmatic than the Communist Party of India. The present General Secretary of CPIM is Sitaram Yechuri. Central Committee and the Politburo are the highest decision making bodies in the party. Prakash Karat, Manik Sarkar, Pinarayi Vijayan, Vrinda Karat, Muhammad Salim are the major prominent leaders of the CPIM. Democratic Youth Federation of India, Student Federation of India, Center of Indian Trade Unions, All India Kisan Sabha, All India Democratic Women's Association are the important frontal wings of the CPIM. In order to form a left democratic front alternative, CPIM has formed and led Left United Front in West Bengal, Kerala and Tripura. CPIM also extended support to Janata Dal led United Front government at the center, and it supported UPA 1 in 2004 from the outside, but withdrew its support on the issue of Indo-US nuclear deal. In the recent Lok Sabha elections election in 2019, it has won only 3 seats and it has 5 members in the Rajya Sabha. So, in terms of electoral politics, Communist Party of India Marxist is losing its support base, also its vote shares and the number of seats in the parliament. And like CPIM's electoral fortunes are also on decline. In the West Bengal, where it ruled for more than 3 decades, it has lost its space to All India Trinamool Congress first, and now increasingly to the BJP, where BJP is becoming the main opposition party to the Trinamool Congress. However, CPIM remains the leading left parties in India for its consistent opposition to capitalist, the bourgeoisie and the Congress party. It has adopted progressively a moderate stand and pragmatic politics by avoiding what it calls the revolutionary adventurism of Communist Party of India, Marxist and Leninist or Maoist party. So, in terms of land reforms legislation, providing resources to panchayats, abolition of poverty, providing quality and accessible health care and education, CPIM ruled states or government has performed much better in comparison to its counterparts in the other states. So, in terms of these policies like land reforms, providing resources to the panchayats, abolition of poverty and providing quality and accessible health care and education, the performance of CPIM government, particularly in the state of West Bengal, Kerala, is much better than many other states ruled by other opposition parties. Now, if you look at the challenges and the future prospects of left parties in India, CPI and CPIM together played an instrumental role in protecting the interest of the marginalized and the excluded groups in Indian society. The objective to create a socialist and egalitarian India while remaining committed to ideology of Marxism and Leninism make them a consistent force in Indian politics. So, unlike in many other political parties, consistency in terms of its ideology, policies and programs since the first general election. In Indian politics, CPI and CPIM remain a consistent force, constantly fighting for the interest of marginalized and the excluded groups in the society in its quest for radically transforming the existing power relations in the society to create a more more egalitarian or socialist society which provides opportunity for all. It emphasizes upon decisions through debates and discussions combined with inner party democracy. In comparison to other parties, the decisions in communist parties are taken through debates and discussion, and there are relatively better inner party democracy that exists in the left parties in compared to the high command culture in many other opposition party. However, in the contemporary Indian politics, it is increasingly losing its ground as well as its support base, as we have discussed that even in the West Bengal where it ruled for 3 decades, it is increasingly losing its space to the BJP. These parties are now more concerned about fighting communalism and strengthening the secular democratic politics in India rather than talking or mobilizing the workers or the peasants for the class struggle or the revolutionary politics which remain in the background. So, these left parties in contemporary politics is more vocal about protecting the secular and democratic politics from the threat or onslaught of the communalist politics rather than talking about the class struggle and the revolutionary politics. Another major shortcomings of left parties in India is their emphasis upon the state and state institution rather than Indian society. So, the engagement of the left parties starts by and large through the state and state institution rather than engaging with the institutions and patterns in the society. So, it tries to build up the revolutionary struggle in India primarily through the working on states institutions, its policies and processes rather than the institutions and the processes of the Indian society. So, the response or the mobilization of left parties is largely in response to the policies and programs of the Indian state rather than engaging with the institution and the practices of Indian society, and therefore, its politics, strategies and languages remain somewhat alien to majority of Indian population even when it commit itself to fight for the protection of their rights and interests. Left parties in India also suffer from their ideological confusion about revolutionary politics and transformative politics. In the initial decades, they were apprehensive about India's political independence and regarded Indian democracy as bourgeois democracy. Their politics was geared towards creation of a socialist society on the basis of Marxist Leninist doctrines. Even when they agreed to join parliamentary politics, they saw it as a tactical move towards achieving true or people's democracy, and to do so they never shun extra parliamentary politics in terms of mobilization of workers or peasants in different parts of the country. Left parties in India also suffer from the challenges of maintaining a harmonious balance between their ideological commitment on the one hand and the demands of pragmatic politics on the other hand. So, this remains the major challenges before the left parties in terms of their ideological commitment and the demands of pragmatic politics. The acceptance of new liberal economic reforms and aligning with regional parties and the Congress pose one such major challenges to the left parties in India. Similarly, engaging with the identity politics, be it on the basis of caste or religion, remains a big challenge for them. The continuous splits and merger in the left parties, combined with the lack of young leaderships and organizational weakness, are the major cause for the decline of left parties in contemporary Indian politics. So, instead of expanding into new areas, these left parties are losing even their strongholds, such as in West Bengal and in Tripura. In fact, their sphere of influence are limited in few areas, and they are contesting less and less number of seats in recent elections. Another criticism against the left parties are the leadership or the control of party functionaries are still in the hand of upper castes, and as a whole they have failed to address the caste questions in India. So, 1980s, 90s, when many socialist or Janata parties moved increasingly towards the quota politics or the caste politics, one can also call it the identity politics. One of the criticism against left parties in India that they remain indifferent, or the party and its functionaries remain under the leadership of upper caste, and they failed to address the caste question in India. However, left parties have played important roles in legislating pro-poor welfare politics or policies of the Indian state. It projects itself as a vanguard of the marginalized and oppressed communities in India, and in the contemporary Indian politics they are the most vocal supporter of secular and the constitutional democracy in India. So, their objective or aim of creating a communist and the socialist society on the basis of class struggle or mobilizing of the peasants and the workers, in recent decades these parties are more vocal supporter of the secular and the constitutional democracy, and they regard communalism as the greatest threat to the secular politics in India. In such attempts, the revolutionary spirit of these parties and also the idea of the class struggles are pushed in the backgrounds, and there is as a result somewhat disillusionment or a sense of not being as relevant in electoral politics that resulted not just in their electoral performance, but also their ability to mobilize resources or mobilize the workers or peasants for their policies and the programs. So, electorally left parties remains remains on the decline, yet in terms of policies or programs these parties continue to fight for the protection of the rights of workers or peasants and other marginal communities in India. So, that is all from and many of them are on the verge of losing their status as the national parties or as a recognized part in India. So, there are genuine apprehension about the prospect of left parties in India, nonetheless their contribution in Indian politics have been remarkable. So, on this lecture you can refer to some of these books and articles. There are two good chapters in Joya Hassan, Parties and Party Politics in India. From Mahendra Singh and Rekha Saxena, Indian Politics, Contemporary Issues and Concerns, also talked about left parties. Similarly, you can look at Sir David Petrie, Communism in India 1924 to 1927, and also K.C. Suri, Parties Under Pressure, Political Parties in India Since Independence, C.P. Bhamri, Ideology and Political Parties in India, and Rekha Divakar, Party System in India. So, these are some of the texts you should refer to, besides looking to the websites of these parties to understand their policies, programs, ideology, leadership and contribution in Indian politics. So, that is all for today's lecture. Thanks for listening. Thank you all.